Not a fan of this style. Never have been. So let's just figure what your machine cost oil-wise, maintenance-wise, per 250 hours. One of the reasons why you do that first oil change. But one of the most important things about your 50-hour service is there's not a lot of room around here. Oh, you see that? Well, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the Rusty Garage and Homestead. My name is Mike. Today's video, we're gonna take Tiny, which is our TYM 2515H, and we're gonna do the 50-hour service on it. So I'm gonna show you all what tools you need, how to do it, and the cost of it all. So if that's something you're interested in, this video is for you. Okay, so here it is. We've got the loader off of it. We've got the back off of it. Also, we got that coolant leak we're gonna take care of. Pretty sure I pinpointed exactly what it is. I'll show you all that whenever we get to it. But the first thing I'm gonna do is get this thing fired up and let it start warming up. I'm gonna drive it around. So when you change your oil, you really need to have it warm. Your oil gets sediments, contaminants in your oil. Everything settles to the bottom. Not all that stuff comes out whenever you just open the drain plug. So if you circulate the oil, get it up to temperature, all those contaminants get mixed up into the oil and you get more of them out whenever you drain it when it's hot. So we're gonna get this thing up to operating temperature, run around, get the transmission warm, and then we'll be ready. We are looking at 50.7 on the hour meter. This machine does feel a whole lot rougher with the backhoe and loader off of it. It's a whole lot more bouncy. All right, tractor's good and warm. Drove it around. It's all up to temperature. So you guys can see the first issue I'm kind of running into. This machine sits so low, can't really get a bucket in here very well. See, it's hitting that front end. So we're gonna get this machine off the ground a little bit. That should help us with getting everything drained. They can't even get under the oil filter right there. Now let's see if a bucket fits. It doesn't fit there, but it fits under there just fine. And we do have room to get it up and under where we need to be. So that should work just fine. I'll probably end up taking some of these longer 2x8s and the 2x4s, cutting them down where they're a little bit shorter. They don't need to be that long. And I'll nail them together and just have them put up here in the shop. So whenever I get ready to do services on this, I already got the blocks set up. First thing we're gonna get started with is getting the engine oil draining. Okay, now the hood's up, your oil filter's here, your oil fill is here, but quick enough, just take this off where it's out of the way, where we can get to everything. And the screen just sits down. It's got these little rubber garments and these little pins down there that sits on. Okay, so the first step is right under here. Okay, here's your front axle. Right back here next to your drive shaft. That little yellow plug, that's for your engine oil. So I'm gonna break that loose. That is a 17 millimeter. If you can avoid it, avoid using a 12-point socket. Use a 6-point socket instead, but if all you have is a combination wrench, then use the box end instead of the open end. You're less likely to round that thing off. Okay, we'll get that thing close. This bucket. I'm just gonna slide this bucket right up against here so this oil will drain into it. And it's gonna be close, but we will make it work. And watch out, this oil is gonna be hot. Remember, we just got through running this thing for a while. Okay, there's a plug. We'll go clean this thing up. It is not a magnetic plug, but should have a seal on it. We'll check that out. Yep, make sure it's still good and let this thing drain. Okay, so nothing special on this drain plug for the engine oil. Main thing is you want to check the seal, make sure the seal's not torn, ripped, or just flat. And this seal looks pretty decent. There is some paint kind of flaking off on some of this. I mean, that's kind of to be expected. So you can see it does have a recess, has an O-ring sitting in there. That O-ring is not flat, so we're gonna go ahead and just reuse that one because I didn't think to buy any new ones, but that should be okay. I'll remember for the next time to go ahead and make sure I get all the O-rings for all the drain plugs so we have them on hand. And that thing is getting real close to being drained. We're just dripping right now, so it doesn't hold much. This little 3-cylinder is a pretty small engine. So once that quits dripping, we'll go ahead and put the plug back in it. Then I'll move the bucket right out over here and we'll get that oil filter pulled off. Okay, so that's pretty much done. I'm gonna go ahead and push this out of the way. I've got a rag here. Wipe this off. Get that nice and clean. You don't have to get crazy tight with them. It's tight enough. I'll wipe it off one more time. Just make sure we ain't got nothing. No place for dirt and everything to stick to. So next we'll move right up here to the oil filter. We'll just pull this out. Kind of want to go look at this real quick out in the sun. Oop, made a little mess. That's not awful. You can see a little bit of metallic in there. You guys might not be able to. So the whole point of your 50-hour oil service is all those parts need to break in and wear in together. So more than likely on your first service, your oil is going to look a lot more metallic-y than normal. It's going to look real shiny, like it's got a bunch of glitter in it. For your first service, that's completely normal. If that happens at your second, third, whatever, not so normal. But the engine has gearing in the front timing cover. It's got bearings. All that stuff has to wear in. The front axle, same deal. Gears, all that stuff has to wear in. Same with the transmission. So your first service is important to get done so the parts get broke in like they need to, and then you get that contaminated oil out and replace it with some good, fresh, clean oil. Okay, next step's gonna be this oil filter. I'm gonna go ahead and just wipe as much dirt and everything away from it as I can. It really is a good idea to go ahead and just pressure wash your machine before you service it. Get all this stuff cleaned off. I do have this flexible funnel I'm gonna go ahead and use just so I can try to minimize the mess. See if I can wedge it up in here somewhere. Okay, hopefully that holds. And this is just a channel lock brand of pliers. These work pretty good for a lot of the smaller filters. That is way too tight. Well, we'll let that drain for a second. Okay, and the next step, I don't know if you can see or not, that is all dirt right around that edge. We want to get every bit of that wiped off and make sure that's clean. So just take a clean rag and wipe all that off of there. Okay, so we have a nice clean mating surface now for a new oil filter. And our new oil filter, genuine TYM. This is, that's the part number right there. And for the oil filter, engine oil filter 4647A, that's that oil filter from the dealer. All these filters I bought from the dealer. The air filter, I don't think I would do that again. The air filter, it's a Donaldson air filter, which I'm perfectly fine with using the Donaldson air filter. What I'm not okay with is the price of this. This is just the outer also. This tractor only has the outer on it, but with the filter housing, you can put the inner and the outer on it. Let me show you real quick the price. And this is how the air filter came. It didn't come in a box or anything like that. And I like having extra air filters around the shop, but they're not going to last if you just have them sitting out like this. They're going to get covered in dust, so they really need to stay in their box. But the Donaldson filter is a P821575 right there. So Donaldson, it's a good filter. There's nothing wrong with that. But I got charged for an OEM filter, a Branson air filter. So let me show you. So I can buy an inner and outer. You can buy some different brands that are cheaper. That's not Donaldson. But for the Donaldson air filter, primary and secondary. So that's it. You guys can see the part number, hopefully. The price for both of those filters is a little over $40. So that is them. So the air filter that I got charged for was the HRA 0500702A9 Branson air filter. You guys can see. I'll just show you. Branson air filter right there. $57.99. That is ridiculous. When I could buy two that would come in a box for cheaper than I could buy just the outer one from the dealer. Now I get dealers sometimes cost a little bit more, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather support a local business, a small business, versus buying something off of Amazon if I can. But when there's that much discrepancy in the price, it's hard not to go with Amazon and stuff like that. So the oil filter, I'll get it out. We'll put a little grease around the seal, get that put back on. Then we're going to be ready to put oil in that machine. And the oil capacity for the 2515H R, 3015 H&R, and the 3515 H&R is 4.3 liters. Everything in this book is in liters, so I'll convert that over to, well, do that real quick. Okay, so we're dealing with 4.544 US quarts. That's what we'll put in it. We are using the 1540 Mobile Delvac synthetic. I'm a fan of Mobile Delvac oil. And also on the transmission right here, we're using Mobile Delvac tractor hydraulic fluid. From all the reading I can do, that tractor has a hydrostatic whine sometimes. You can hear in some of my older videos when I was driving that tractor, especially more uphill, you could really hear that hydrostat system whining. So a lot of people recommend running the Mobile Delvac, really quieten it down. So we're gonna try that and see if it works. And if you guys are wondering what actually is in the 50-hour service, right over here, here's your 50-hour stuff. Engine oil and filter, that's all on that page. Second page, you got transmission oil filter, front axle oil, tighten nuts and bolts, that's important. We'll be checking all of those. Generator, motor, and hydraulic system. That's all under the 50-hour stuff. Hydraulic system and transmission oil, that's all the same stuff. So once we drain that, it's all getting changed. Now, when I did go and buy all this oil, I bought more than I needed because I don't like having just the right amount. I like having oil on the shelf just in case I need to top something off one day, or if I develop a little bit of a leak with a hydraulic hose or something like that. I've got oil here that I can go ahead and just top things off with. I also got Lucas. I'm a huge fan of running Lucas in pretty much all of my vehicles. All my vehicles get Lucas in it. I know some people probably won't agree. That's fine, do you? But I'm a believer in it. We always ran the stuff in my race car. My buddy told me to run this oil mixed in with the regular VR1 is what we were running, 2050 Valvoline. So I always ran the stuff in my race car. And one weekend we were getting ready to go to the drag strip and I needed to change my oil. Didn't have any Lucas, so I thought, well, no big deal. I'll go ahead and change it. So changed the oil, changed the filter, made a few passes, ended up spinning a bearing on the crankshaft on that particular small block Chevy. Had to pull that engine out, tear it down, took it to the machine shop, got everything fixed. And since then, put Lucas in everything. I never have any issues with bearings or anything like that. So I'm a fan. I will substitute maybe not quite a quart, 3/4 of a quart-ish, somewhere in there, of Lucas with the engine oil in this engine. And when we get ready to add the oil, I'll kind of show you what the difference is. This stuff is tacky. It really clings to stuff. So I like knowing that this stuff's going to be coated on the bearings versus just regular engine oil. When you first fire up anything, everything's not dry, but it doesn't have any oil like it is whenever it's up and running supplied to the bearings. So to me, I just feel a little better having something like this mixed in with my engine oil. Okay, engine oil filter. Okay. Well, that is cool. they have a plastic cover, even though it's inside a box. Now this one still has the Korean writing all over it, but also has an English section. So that was real nice of them. It says apply a thin film of oil to the gasket, torque tighten to 2.2 to 2.5, check for oil leaks, and it says to replace every 6 months or 250 hours. Cool, because this oil change was not cheap. At the end of the video, I'll give you a total cost of what the oil cost me and the filters, parts, all that stuff. So you guys will kind of have an idea. Okay, now all I'm going to do is just take a little bit of grease. I know it says oil. I always use grease. And just put a thin bead across this oil filter gasket. If you don't do that, you're really going to struggle the next time you want to get your oil filter off. Just a thin coat, wrap it, get it all over this seal, just so it's not dry. All right, let's get this put on. I really like that flexible funnel. I'll leave a link to that down in the description if you're interested, and whatever else I can find that I've used for this service, I'll leave links to it. Okay, just one more time, make sure everything's wiped off and clean. Looks good. Got our grease on there. Okay, and I am going to write on the filter the hours at which this thing was replaced. This is just a good visual reminder, just something I always do. I'm gonna get my flexible funnel, get it out of there, get it wiped down, spray it down some brake clean, and we'll get some oil put in this thing. Okay, so that's all good. I'm gonna move this bucket out of the way. I'm gonna wipe all that dirt and everything else around that oil fill, get it cleaned off, and we'll go ahead and start adding our oil to it. Just get all this dirt. We don't want to pull this cap off and have dirt fall down into our engine. We're doing all this work to protect everything and hopefully make it last longer. So it's not a bad idea to just go ahead and wash your machine before you service it. I am down a pressure washer right now, so it's not an option for us. I'm pulling this cap because I can see there's still some dirt up around things. See all that? I'm going to start down here, get all this bottom stuff out of the way. And I'm going to use clean paper towel every time I make a new swipe. Now, get this top. Just going to push it away from the hole. Just like so. Same with the back side of the oil fill cap. See there's a little bit of dirt around there? We'll get all that wiped off and cleaned off before we install it. Okay, so we got our big funnel put in there, got it all wiped up. So we need 4.5 quarts of oil for this. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you kind of the consistencies of these, of your 1540 and of your Lucas, just so you can see. Okay, don't need much. There's a little bit on the plug here, or on the cap right there. So my fingers are clean. There's your engine oil. Now let me put this little bit on my fingers. So you can see your engine oil. Here's that Lucas. This stuff, it's really tacky. That stuff feels slicker than your oil. You see how that's just clingy versus your motor oil? So 4.5 quarts. We'll probably put the 1/2 quart or so, maybe a little more of this Lucas. And then let's go ahead and get this. What kind of oil you guys using in your tractors? Okay, so let's just dump part of this in here. That's a little over 2 quarts. You can even see when I pour this stuff. Shooting for roughly about 1/2 quart. Stuff is slow to pour. Now the oil filter is going to be empty. The dipstick, you can see it, that little yellow dough right there, that's a dipstick. So if I didn't say what it is, this is the Mobile Delvac Extreme Synthetic. Okay, we are here. I want to get it closer to here since the oil filter's empty. So 4.5 quarts, this is 4 quarts. Just finished dumping the rest of it in there. And that should tell us that our Lucas was right there at the 1/2 quart mark. And if it's not, I'll add some more Lucas to it. Okay, so we are right up here, right past that upper mark. I'll put the dipstick back in, put the oil plug fill cap back in, and then we're going to start this thing. Okay, I don't see no oil leaking, nothing dripping. Check the drain plug real quick. That all looks good. Bottom of the oil filter looks good. We'll check the oil one more time. And we are, if you can see it, just right below that upper mark, so we're good on our engine oil now. All right, I think while we're up here, we're gonna go ahead and do the front axle. I'm gonna get 2 buckets, clean those out really well, because I'm suspecting that you're gonna have a lot more glitter on the front axle than we did the engine oil. Now the drain plugs for each side is a 17 millimeter, same as the engine oil drain plug, and the fill cap and the vent on each side, that is 1 1/16 to get those plugs out. So that little orange plug right there, we'll get all that dirt wiped off from it. This is our fill plug and dipstick. We'll pull it out. And then on this side, the drain plug is not on the front. It's there on the back. Same deal. Get all that dirt wiped off. This is your vent. That's actually really important. If you get your vent plugged up, more than likely your axle seals are going to start leaking sooner than later. So if you get down in the mud or anything like that, make sure you pull this vent out and clean it out. That casing has to breathe. Otherwise, it's going to find the weakest link, and that's going to be your axle seals. Okay, so easy enough. Just get all this dirt. We don't want to drop anything down in the front axle. Like I said, 1 1/16. Now this will also have your dipstick on it. There's your dipstick. So I'm gonna go ahead and just thread that in. Keep it as is. We'll work on getting this cleaned up and get this drain plug out. I've got some smaller buckets we'll stick down below here. Let me show you something that gets that dirt out real good. Okay, little pocket screwdriver. These work great for getting right up in here, getting all that stuff scratched out of there. It's like new money now. So go ahead and get it, our 17 millimeter, and break this thing loose. We do have a clean bucket. So I don't think, and if we didn't pick the tractor up, we wouldn't have been able to get that bucket right there. And you've got a seal right here. We'll look at it. This is, yeah, that's a heavyweight oil. That's not a 10 weight. I've heard that some tractor manufacturers put a lighter oil in the front differential, front axle, just for the break-in period. But this is definitely not 10 weight. This is pretty thick stuff. You can tell it has pretty much quit draining. So I just loosened that up and it's starting to flow again. So yeah, that's some pretty thick oil. Okay, since that's been pretty slow, we're gonna go ahead and just stick a bucket down on the other side and get that side draining as well. This side wiped off. Break it loose. And then the drain plug. Seal stuck. A little screwdriver to, there we go. Got it broke loose. Okay, so while the front axle is draining, figured I would let you know. This calls for a SA 90 weight, is what the book calls for, and it calls for 6.4 liters. Okay, 6.4 liters is 6.763 US quarts. And let's just see when the next time this is going to be due. Front axle. So the first 50 hours and then every 300 hours. So the oil I went with, I was wanting Amsoil. Could not find any Amsoil locally. Amsoil has some pretty decent gear oil. So ended up going with Valvoline full synthetic 75W90. This will work just fine in that front axle. So that oil, I got it from AutoZone. And that stuff, they did have a little bit of a sale. Yeah, 2 for $36 was the sale, but roughly $18.99 a piece for each of those quarts. So I've got 2 gallons worth, 8 quarts, and we need 6.73, so almost 7 of them. So what I'll end up doing, once those finish draining, I'll put the drain plugs back in, and then I'll just start from one side to the other and dump a quart in each side, probably a couple quarts, and just bring it up till we get close. Probably do we'll do 3 quarts per side, and then that last 0.7 quarts, 3/4 of a quart, we'll just kind of split the difference on it. All right, front axle is finally drained. That heavy gear oil, it takes a while to drain. And the drain plug, I wanted to show you something on here real quick. So here's the drain plug with the seal. Let me get that seal off of there. There's the seal. This is what's called a banjo seal. These are real common on some fuel systems, on diesel fuel systems, to use that kind of seal, but it's like a metal washer with a rubber inlay on the inside. It's called a banjo seal. That's what's on the drain plug of your front axle. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the drain plugs both put back in, and we'll start putting oil, 3 quarts on each side, and get it filled up to the dipstick. It is nice that basically everything that you need to service on this machine, I don't know if the dealer did this or if it came from the manufacturer that way, but every oil plug has been painted yellow. So nice little visual aid of that. And we're gonna go dump this oil. And I just want to see, you guys seen that the buckets was clean. So I just want to see if there's any stuff in it. Okay, let's take it outside in the light. Okay, and some of those chunks could have been me, but there's definitely some metalliciness to that oil. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up. One of the reasons why you do that first oil change. Okay, I'll get the other drain plug in, get the other side dumped. If it looks like there's anything more on that side, I'll show you. Okay, here's the first quart. I do like these bags versus a bottle sometimes, depending on what you're adding oil to. These bags make it a lot easier, especially on like a manual transmission, when you got to do the fill plug on the side of the transmission housing. Like on my first gen, there's not a lot of room. I normally have to pump it up in there. You can get these bags and make them work out pretty good. This oil is expensive. And the third quart, I'm just going to loosely put that in there so nothing falls in it. Now let's go ahead to the other side and do it. And here's our first one. A bit of mess. This is where when you could have the front axle up off the ground would make things a little easier, because then you could spin the wheels and help just kind of equalize everything out a little bit more. All right, well, we've got 6 quarts in it, so we need 0.7 more quarts. That's where having an actual quart jug would probably be better than these bags, because it's going to be hard to determine 0.7 out of a bag that you can't see through. So we'll guesstimate it. We'll get it close. I'll probably just put half in there, let everything settle, run it around, and then I'll check it later. Okay, let's go for half a quart, 3/4 of a quart. Okay, that's probably going to be close. If anything, we're still a little low. It feels like this bag right around that 75-50. So a little over half. Let's check it on the dipstick. So it says on checking it, put that in, run it down there where it normally is, and then take it back out. So let's see. We are, that's gonna be hard to see. We're right at the top of these hash marks on this dipstick. So we're good here. Put this in and get it tightened back up. Tighten the vent on the other side, and this will be done. But I will go ahead and check this after I run it around a bit. I'll go ahead and just double check it. So while I am up here, I'm gonna go ahead and check some of these hose clamps. I'm pretty confident after looking at everything, and that is kind of loose. But I'm pretty confident my leak is this hose clamp right here. Now these hose clamps, like this style, those I'm really not a fan of. You can't really get a lot on those, so I've got a different hose clamp that's a high torque, similar to something like this, that we're gonna put on that thing. But that one was definitely loose. Let's check this bottom one. It all looks corroded because of all the antifreeze that's went down this hose. I don't know. I prefer my hose clamps to be tighter. Okay. So that one to me was a little loose, so was that one. Our culprit for leaking, we'll get that one replaced here in a little bit. But next, let's check out the transmission, hydrostat filters, all that stuff, and let's go ahead and start getting that drained. Okay, you can see we're on the right-hand side of the machine if you're sitting in the operator cab. I believe that's your hydrostat filter and your other hydraulic transmission filter. You've got those two and our plug right back here. That big orange, yellow plug. I'll get a size on that. We'll get a bucket down here, and here is 1 3/16. That one will work. Okay. That is broke loose now. Let me get a bucket. Okay, I did just check, and this is a pain. Let me move you all, see if I can get to a spot to get this picked up. Oh, you see that? My 2 2x4s is not enough. I'm gonna have to do this 3. I'll make this work just like so, and I'll reach up there and pull that plug out. I've got 2 5-gallon buckets. I probably need to grab a third one. I did just check, and this holds 37 liters, so that is 39 quarts roughly, 9.77 gallons. Now that's for the hydrostat model, so I don't want to get these things full to the brim before I swap buckets, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a third bucket, get that bucket turned up. That one's still dirty from the engine oil. This one, that bucket's clean. So, yeah, let me get another bucket and get this other one turned up, and we'll start draining this thing. Definitely need 3 2x4s. Okay, here's bucket number 2. We get one more. Never mind. I'm just going to use these smaller buckets that I used for the front axle. They're a couple gallon buckets, so we'll get this one full about half to 3. Okay. For me having to squeeze on those buckets and flip it up, that's going to be a bad idea to use a 5-gallon bucket. So We're just going to use these two. I'll just keep swapping them out back and forth, and as one of these gets full, I'll swap it, pull it out, and dump it in one of these 5-gallon buckets. That's probably going to be the best option for us without making a teetotal mess. Yeah, next oil change, we're doing 3 or 4 2x4s to drive up on. That'll give us enough room to be able to use a 5-gallon bucket with no issue. Okay, and this is a magnetic plug, so we'll look at it here in a minute once we get this down. I'm leaving the fill plug in just to make this go a little slower for right now. The oil doesn't look awful. Imagine if I pull the fill plug out, this will speed up drastically. But we're dealing with about 3/4 of a bucket, so get it swapped. This would be handy to be able to put this tractor on my lift. That may be something we try one day. Okay, it's slowing down, I imagine. Well, actually, it's easier to access these buckets from the rear. So, FYI. Okay, let's let that thing drain for just a bit. Check out this drain plug. Let me show you what kind of fines are on it. Here is the drain plug. Same type of seal. It's a banjo seal. Let me grab a clean rack real quick. So you can see all those fines on that. That's fine. That's not a huge deal. As long as you're not seeing huge chunks, this is to be expected, especially on the break-in oil. You can see just like a metallic paste, if you will. I don't feel really anything major. Just normal fines in it. Yep, nothing major. You can see how big that magnet is. It's going to grab most of the crud that's in that thing. But you want that. Okay, I'm going to get some brake clean this thing off, and it'll be ready to install as soon as this is done draining. All clean. Check our banjo seal, make sure it looks good. I am going to order extras just because I like having extra seals on hand whenever I'm doing stuff like this. We're full. Did not realize it was getting as full as it was, but okay, it's full. That is going to make a mess. It's going to make a big mess. Not awful, but there's a little bit of a sheen in there. That's probably hard for the camera to pick it up. Okay, transmission's drained. Got this all clean, so we're gonna get this put back in and start filling this thing back up. Okay, this is from the back side. Whoops. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's tight. Okay, I'll just leave those as is. Since our waste oil jug's full now, just leave those in the bucket. I need to come up with a different solution for waste oil. We actually go through quite a bit of oil here on the farm, so I don't know. I'm thinking on using some sort of IBC tote just for waste oil. Like when this thing gets full, I can stroll it out there and dump the whole 25 gallons in the IBC tote at a time. Because we have a ton of 2.5 gallon jugs filled up with used engine oil. We use it for burning for the most part, so I'm gonna keep it. There's not anyone that comes around and picks up waste oil in my area, so yeah. Okay, so the transmission is drained. The orange plug, that's our fill plug, that's our dipstick. But before we get too crazy with those, we still got the 2 filters to change. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these buckets right down here, and let's see if we can get these filters off. Okay, I think I'm gonna start with this one, just because it looks like the harder one to get to. That seal is pushed out, so I bet this dude's gonna be tight. Just guessing. And there's not a lot of room around here. Guess I can try my pliers first. That'll probably be the best bet. If that don't work, I'll try to go get one of my strap wrenches. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm pleased that it's coming apart or coming off. Okay, it's loosened up. There we go. Okay, get my bucket down here. Let's just get this thing loose because it's gonna puke oil out. So let's let it do that. And you can see side of this filter where it is caved in a few spots because that thing was so tight I had to squeeze on it so hard. So this is a hydraulic oil filter, TYM 2515H. Okay, let's just set that one there in the bucket. Okay, let's get this hydraulic oil filter back on. Okay, that is plenty tight. Well, maybe this one is tight. Oh yeah. See how that whole housing's deflecting? It's moving. Oh yeah. Let that drain for just a second. Okay, so this hydraulic oil filter is a TYM 2515H. We'll go get that other filter installed. So this even says, make sure the gasket is seated, screw filter into the base until contact, tighten half a turn, and then refill the system. So that's contact, half a turn. All right, so the filters are changed. Not that big of a deal. They was a little tight, not awful. I was expecting worse, hoping for the best, so that worked out. So now we're going to get a funnel and start putting oil back in this transmission, get it filled. I think I mentioned that it is 39 quarts. No, 39 quarts, 37 liters, right around there. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna remove this fill plug. This is a plastic, I don't know, this looks really chintzy. But I'm gonna try to get a funnel down in here and we'll start getting oil put in that thing. And I'm just gonna check, but I don't think, no, that is not gonna work. I don't like using those funnels, but is what it is. Okay, here's the first 2.5 gallons of Mobile Delvac tractor hydraulic fluid. I don't like using this long funnel because it's got a small outlet and you got to pour it slow. But I guess that's okay. We'll make it work. What kind of oils are you guys using in servicing your tractors? And once we get this filled back up and it gets up on the dipstick, I'm going to start it and let it run for probably a couple minutes to finish getting the filters filled back up. And also, these machines should kind of self-bleed. You start it and let it idle. It'll sit there and get to where it's in a happy spot. You just have to make sure the oil's full. Okay, there's 5 gallons. Okay, that is 7.5 gallons. We're ways up on the dipstick, so I'm gonna go ahead and start this thing. Let's see where it went down to. So it was showing over. which I only got about half of that last jug in there. So that was 8, 9, 8.5-ish. So if anything, it should be about a gallon off, because that one filter is pretty good size. We are, looks like it's a little over. Service manual says 37 liters. It's a little over. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for right now because I'm gonna have to finish this tomorrow. So I'll finish this later, but for you guys, like I said, it'll be just a few seconds. All right, it is the next day. Where we left off, the tractor was a little over full on the transmission hydraulic fluid. Not full enough, over full enough that I'm concerned with it, but enough that I'm gonna go ahead and take some out. The product I'm gonna use to remove the oil, I don't know where mine went, so I ordered another one. It'll be here tomorrow, so that'll be a separate video on a quick and easy way to remove fluid if you ever feel something. We will go ahead and check everything, make sure everything's full. Again, engine oil, front diff, transmission, and then I'm gonna get a handful of wrenches, crawl under this thing, tighten the bolts or check the bolts, make sure everything's tight on the loader frame, wheels, hose clamps, anything like that. Anything I can find that I can put a wrench or socket on, we're gonna try to tighten it just to make sure it's tight and didn't loosen off any. Because that is prone on newer machines, on the loaders. Make sure that stuff's tight, wheels, all that stuff. And then our last little project, you guys seen I did already tighten these two hose clamps. I'll try to tighten that. Actually, you can see that. I just ran my finger on the bottom side of this. So that hose clamp is definitely leaking on that. So there's your thermostat right here. This is, I would consider still your thermostat housing. That's your water pump. You call it your water pump also. So looks like the water pump and thermostat housing are all the same. Okay, now this is the style of hose clamp I bought to go with. These are what I call a high torque hose clamp. This is a 28 millimeter to 34 millimeter style. You can see it's got a long ways to go. I don't know if that is going to get us small enough, but we'll see. You can buy those hose clamps in all different sizes. They make them. But if that won't go small enough, I've got a regular style hose clamp that we can use for now that I know we can get a lot more torque on than what's currently on the machine. Okay, let's get this one off. And like I said, what I mentioned to y'all earlier, that's how I kind of pinpointed down that it was right up here. You can see my finger. That one's dry. And that's wet. So it is leaking around that. I have tried to tighten on it. Now, a lot of these hose clamps, I do like using a smaller ratchet, either my stubby 3/8 or a 1/4 inch drive, because you do not want to over torque these. Okay, you can see that thing's leaking already. Already getting drips from it. Move this out of the way, I'll pull it off in a second. I was able to push up on that. Yeah, that thing's leaking. So let's get the new hose clamp put on this. Here's the new one. Get it wrapped around there. Get it started. Okay, that is pretty tight. Okay. Yeah, just not a fan of this style. Never have been. And while we're here, get a little brake clean. I'm gonna spray all around this and just try to clean some of this off. So we'll just keep an eye on that. And if it keeps leaking, then we will end up trying something a little bit different on it. Okay, so this leak here, if you didn't want to do any troubleshooting, there's no reason you couldn't have taken this to the shop and got it warranted and they would have fixed it and changed the hose clamp and all that. Now, I didn't feel the need to do that, even if it was the fitting and I had to pull the fitting out of the water pump there. I didn't feel the need. If you take your tractor to the shop, for the most part, it's about an hour for me to drive one way, drop it off, and they're gonna have it for probably at least a week. So that's a week that I'm not getting to use my tractor. Then they'll call, again, another hour down there and back to get it, load it, unload it, all that stuff. So to me, This took a couple minutes to fix myself. I've got antifreeze. You need to have extra antifreeze and oils and stuff like that anyways if you have a machine like this, just because if you add any attachment, third function, or run anything with the hydraulics that's new, it's going to use oil out of your system to fill up whatever, so then you're going to be low. You're going to have to top it back off anytime you add a new attachment. But for me, it was easy and quick enough to go ahead and just do the fix myself and not have to worry about 2 hours worth of driving and not having my machine for at least a week. All right, now that the hose clamp's replaced, we will go ahead and try to tighten up all the loader frame bolts, lug nuts, all that stuff that we can get a hold of. Check all these too. All those, these up here. There's a couple hose clamps underneath I want to look at. Okay, here's to one of the hydraulic filters. There's 2 hose clamps right down here. To me, that's too loose. So I am glad that we're checking this. I'm not using anything crazy. I'm using a tiny 3/8 drive. You can use 1/4 inch drive, but just a small. This is one of my favorite ratchets. This little, it's got pretty fine teeth on it. Obviously, you're not going to really put some stuff on with something like this. Okay, now where this pipe goes up by the pump, we'll check the other side of it as well to make sure we ain't got anything loose. On this loader frame I was pointing out a second ago, you got 4 7 bolts right here. These bottom 3, the top 4 actually go into the bell housing. So that's threaded, but the bottom 3, they have nuts on them. Okay, now these aren't crucial, but like everything else, I'm just, if I can put a wrench on it, I'm gonna put a wrench on it and just make sure it's tight. Well, that's good. Okay, that's tight. It's like a 12 millimeter. Yep. Just make sure they're snug. The magnet for the cruise control. They're 12 millimeter. Got a little bit on that one. Okay, so that's good. So this is that pipe that goes down that had the hose clamps on the bottom side. So here is where it comes up. Tees off here, goes to this pump, and then goes down to that pump. Go ahead and check these as well. Seem loose to me. This is a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. Not getting crazy with it, but to me, those are too loose. Now they're good. One more right down in here. So none of this stuff was leaking. Now, it does look like around this pump, and it's not wet, but there's dust there. So keep an eye on that. Dust around that fitting and that fitting. Okay, I'll go ahead and put a wrench on both of these just to make sure they are tight as well. 19 millimeter, it is. Okay, that's pretty good. This one for the steering. Okay, that's good. And also on this 50-hour service, we've got the air filter, which I'm not suspecting it to be dirty. I have looked at it once. It is a little dusty, but not awful. So from the factory, same deal, Donaldson air filter, P821575. And like I mentioned before, there is room in there for the inner filter, so I'm going to go ahead and order that just to have a backup to this one. And since we did lose a little, I've been keeping an eye on this, but let's check, see where we're at. Yeah, it's right here. So we're still full. I could probably add just a scotch to it, but it's about right here, about halfway up that tank. Not a bad place for it. Okay, and one of the other things on the 50-hour service that it wants is you to check the generator. So to me, they're referring to the alternator. If you can see this plug right down here, that wire goes up into the bottom. If you can see it, there's that little terminal. You're gonna take a voltmeter and put it on 12 volt DC, put the positive lead on here, and then pick a ground somewhere, stick it to the case, to the block, wherever, and run it, see what your alternator output is. But it should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 14.5-ish volts. Check your belt. That's another good thing to check on. This belt looks good. So all I really need to finish is getting the lug nuts for the wheels and just kind of do the loader frame, make sure everything's good and tight on that. But I'm sure this video is getting long enough, so let's go and kind of do a breakdown of what everything cost and what this service has cost to me. So we know that servicing machines is expensive, especially diesels, but let me give you a breakdown of what everything cost to me from the dealer, from AutoZone, and from Walmart. And I mean, you guys already know I way overpaid for the air filter, so let me just show you, again, OEM filters, all that stuff, what this machine's costing me to service for myself. Now the fuel filter, I decided, per the manual, it says every 500 hours. I'm not gonna go ahead and replace this just yet. We'll do that when we get closer. We'll probably do it at the first next oil change, 250 hours, whenever that is. Go ahead and do it then, but for now, I'm not gonna mess with it. Same with the air filter. The air filter's not dirty enough that I feel the need that I need to go ahead and put the new one on it. But with all the prices being said, just know I still have extra tractor hydraulic fluid, extra front axle fluid, and an extra, complete jug of 1540, which I can use a lot of this on my next oil change, and that'll just make that one a little bit cheaper. Also did from the dealer, this is the coolant that they sold me. This is the red, pink, whatever, antifreeze, the ELC. But from the dealer, you guys know the air filter was like $58. Fuel filter, $13.95. One of the hydraulic filters was $42.95. The other hydraulic filter was $39.95. Engine oil filter, $21.99. Coolant, that was $15 a jug. So $206.81. Now granted, you could take $30 off if you didn't need 2 jugs of coolant. I still recommend at least having one. So that was $206.81. Next up, we'll do the AutoZone for the front axle for the 7590 full synthetic. For 2 gallons of that was $156.96. And lastly, we've got the Walmart ticket, which that's where I found the mobile Delvac for the tractor hydraulic fluid. They had it on the shelf. Same with the engine oil that I used, and also the Lucas. So if you don't want to run any Lucas, or you can buy a quart of it. I think a quart's close to 20 bucks, but it's cheaper to buy the gallon, and I use it for everything, so I normally always just buy a gallon. The Lucas itself was $35.68. So yeah, if you were to buy 2 quarts of it, way cheaper to buy the gallon. The Delvac 1540 for the engine oil, $19.77 a jug. These were $38.68 a jug at Walmart. So the subtotal for Walmart, $250.63. So we are up. Granted, there's a few things not everyone needs, a few things you could take off. You don't have to buy as much of the extra. But we're up to $614.43. So 615 bucks roughly. That is an expensive oil change for anyone. Now you factor in doing it yourself, you're going to save a little money. Depends what you go with. You don't have to go with these oil. They make cheaper oils. I feel that you should run a good quality oil. Tractor, something like that's a pretty good investment anyway, so I want to run a good quality oil in it. But there's other places you can kind of cheap out on some of this stuff. But still, 615 bucks roughly to do the service for myself. If I took it to the shop, I don't know exactly what it would have cost. I know they get oil cheaper, they buy it in bulk and stuff like that, so there's a little bit of cost savings there. But you do have shop labor and shop rates to service these machines. Now, I don't know how many hours shop rate would be to service a machine like this for the engine oil, transmission, all that stuff, but I imagine that they do bid it down for a few hours anyways. They are set up to do it. They have all the tools they need. If you don't, that may be a factor for it. Myself, I've got more than enough tools and the capability to be able to service a machine like this. So when you factor in that, I've seen where people will till gardens for people and they'll brush hog for people and do kind of a little side work and make extra money with their machines, with their tractors. And sometimes the pricing people don't like, they think it costs too much. Well, $650 for an oil change, stuff like that has to get factored in when you're working a machine like this for people. So let's just figure the next oil change, it said would be 250 hours. So that's gonna be 300 hours on machine since it's already at 50 hours. So let's just figure what your machine cost oil-wise, maintenance-wise, per 250 hours. So we spent $615 essentially, and we're gonna divide that by 250 hours for what we're doing. That is almost $2.50 an hour is what it cost in oil, filters, stuff like that to run your machine. So $2.46. Now that's not counting wear and tear on your tractor or fuel or anything like that, but just to break even on your oil and your filters is about $2.50 an hour. So that's just a little fun fact for you if you didn't know. All right, everyone. Again, it doesn't take that long. It took me a while because I was trying to be as descriptive as possible on some things, and filming in general makes things take quite a bit longer. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of it on your 50-hour service. Not hard, again, fairly simple. We will have another video here soon. I'll show you an easy way to pull some of that oil out. I think it may be not quite a gallon, maybe half a gallon, 3/4 of a gallon on the transmission over full. I'm not really going to work it, so it's fine. My new tool will be here tomorrow, and I'll show you all how to do that. But one of the most important things about your 50-hour service is the nuts and bolts. Make sure everything is tight on that, because things work loose, especially when it's new. So, and things get missed at the dealerships. That's just part of it. That happens. So make sure you tighten everything up on your loader, lug nuts, anything you can get a hold of. Put a wrench on it, socket, whatever, and try to tighten it. But I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate y'all taking time to watch the video, putting up with me for this. I'm sure this is going to be a little bit longer video than normal. But if you need to know how to service your 2515H or 2515R, should be about the same except for quantities on your transmission. Yeah, there you go. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.